and we are standing at the third position with 6.8%. So rest of the countries, follows. If you take the share of these three countries, almost 50% of the carbon emission only from these three countries, China and United States and India. And total carbon emission out of total 100%, 50% contributes from power sector, especially from thermal power plant. And the next important sector which contributes more carbon to the environment is the automobile sector. The right side corner graph shows the total percentage of the carbon emission from the thermal power plant. In 1990, it was around 35 to 40 percentage from thermal power plant. Now in 2016, it has gone up to nearly 46%. Then followed by manufacturing industries, transport sectors, and other sectors. And in order to prevent this carbon emission, we had a international conference held at Paris in 2015. That is called Paris Climate Agreement, popularly known as COP21. The main aim and agenda of this conference to minimize the carbon emission to the environment, so that we can restrict the further temperature rise, which leads to global warming. So France hosted in 2015. France hosted this conference by inviting 196 countries. And they have taken unanimous decision to migrate thermal power to renewable energy and replace conventional vehicle by electric vehicle. So in order to prevent further carbon dioxide emission to the environment, they have taken two important decisions. The first important decision was to migrate thermal power plant or replace thermal power by renewable energy. The second one is replacing conventional vehicle, a fossil fuel vehicle by EV vehicle. And if you look at, already, implementation of EV vehicles started in different countries. Almost 16 countries, they have already initiated that replacement. The Canada, France, Mexico, so many other countries, but still, India is lagging behind in the initiation of electric vehicle. And another important thing, the replacement of thermal by renewable energy. Yes, of course, we have a lot of challenges involved in replacing thermal by renewable energy as well as conventional vehicle by EV vehicle. But all the countries, around 196 countries, have agreed to replace thermal by renewable and as well as conventional vehicle by electric vehicle. So this is our 2030 agenda. India has given agreement to United Nations that by 2030 we will reduce 30% of the carbon emission. This is our agreement to the United Nations. So by 2030 we have to minimize 30% of the carbon emission to the environment when compared to 2005 level. Not only that, we have also agreed to replace 40% of the total power generation will be from renewable energy. This is our near target, and we are marching towards these two targets. And NASA report also says the same thing, because if you take the temperature rise, I think we don't want to refer NASA report to claim the temperature rise, because it is very evident that day by day temperature is rising. Especially if you take last 50 years, the temperature rise has been double when compared to previous 50 years. The main source, as I said earlier, the thermal power plant contributes more carbon to the environment. Other side, vehicle industry, automobile sectors contribute more carbon to the environment. Let us see what will be the solution for this. And in India, around 70% of the electricity we are generating using thermal power plant. So we are mostly depends on thermal power plant. And if you want to generate 1 unit of electricity, that is 1 kilowatt of electricity using thermal power plant, the power plant will emit 0.94 kg of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. So this is the worrying condition with thermal power plant. And if you look at the total electricity generation of our country, it is around 1,433 terawatt hour. See, 1 terawatt hour is nothing but 100 crore unit. Just imagine total electricity generation. Out of 1,433 terawatt hour, 70% of the total power we are getting from the thermal power plant. And if you divide this total power generation by our population, so each citizen is consuming 1,122 kilowatt hour. Each person was responsible for 1,122 units. Just you can have a simple calculation to find out the total carbon emission from each person. So we have 1,122 units of electricity per year each citizen is consuming. And out of 1,122, 70% of the electricity we are generating using thermal power plant. And to generate 1 unit from thermal power plant will emit 0.94. So we are getting 673 kg carbon. So each citizen is responsible for 673 kg carbon dioxide. So somehow we have to restrict this emission to the environment, because one side our population is keep on increasing. Now we are standing at second, but soon we will cross China. We will become number one in world. But other side, you know, we have to find out alternate source to meet the required demand, because when the population grows, then the demand of the electricity also will grow. So this will contribute more carbon dioxide emission to the environment. So we have another suggestion. This is the natural solution for limit the carbon dioxide emission to the environment. See, if you have a proper tree population, you can able to absorb that carbon dioxide. So if the well matured and good grown up tree can absorb 20 kg of carbon dioxide every year. So this will absorb 20 kg carbon, and in turn, this will emit required oxygen for our family. So if you calculate, you know, how many trees required to absorb 673 kg, it is coming around 33 trees. So if you want to maintain proper balance, carbon dioxide balance, then we need to have 33 trees per population. And I have given you the simple statistics with respect to tree population and of different countries. And we are standing with very low head count. So we have only 28. See, our population is around 130 crores, 1.268, exactly 1.268 billion population, around 126 crore population. And our tree population is 35 billion trees. So it is comes around 28 trees per person. But to absorb the total carbon emission, we need to have 33. So already we have 5 tree shortage. So in order to increase that tree population, even AICTE has promoted the one student, one tree initiative. So every college has conducted different awareness camp, not only colleges, even NGOs have conducted different tree plantation campaign, sampling plantation campaign in order to increase tree population, so that, you know, we can able to absorb the carbon dioxide emission in order to limit or restrict the temperature rise. But this is one aspect. The other aspect, when population grows, then electricity consumption also keep on increasing. Therefore, we have to find out alternate way to limit the carbon dioxide emission to the environment. So the simple and straightforward solution to restrict carbon dioxide emission to the environment, we have to replace thermal power by renewable energy. And other side, 15% emission is from automobile sector. So we have to replace conventional vehicle by e-vehicle. And all of you know that, right now we are facing, especially core engineers are facing a lot of challenges with respect to core opportunities. So we have plenty of opportunities in MNC, but we are not getting enough opportunities in core engineering. But I tell you, if you look at 2030 agenda of India and 2030 agenda of United Nations, then you will come to know that what will be the future opportunity available for our core engineers. So today, end of my presentation, I will project what are the 2030 agenda, so that you can equip yourself to grab the opportunity available in near future. But I tell you, Another 2 years, we will be having a tough period. So till the end of 2022, we will be having tough period. So you have to treat these 2 years as an incubation period, and please update your knowledge by taking some courses, certificate courses on solar energy, certificate courses on wind energy, and battery technology. You have to learn about battery technology so that you should be ready to grab the opportunity available in near future. And next, we'll move on to the India's energy transition and what are the challenges available with respect to the energy transition. Already, we have a target to achieve the 2030 agenda of United Nations goals. We have 2 important challenges: climate actions and sustainable development. So, in order to achieve 2030 target, we have already set a 2022 target. So one of the important targets set by Indian government. So by the end of 2022, we are planning to provide 24/7 electricity to all the peoples of India. So still billions of people not able to access to the proper electricity. So the government has given enough measures to state governments in order to achieve 24/7 electricity within 2022. The another important aspect, as I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, our ultimate goal by 2030, we have to replace the total electricity generation, 40% of the electricity generation by renewable energy. So in order to achieve that target, they have set a midterm target. So by 2022, we are planning to increase our RE capacity by 175 gigawatt. This is our immediate target. So it has to be achieved by 2022, but already we have lost 1 year during lockdown period. So a lot of challenges we are having in next 1 year to achieve this target. Not only to achieve 40% of the total electricity by renewable. So one side we are planning to slowly replace thermal energy by renewable energy. Other side, we have to increase the tree population so that not only restricting the carbon dioxide emission, we have to reduce the carbon dioxide emission so that we can leave the sustainable environment to our future generation. That is the ultimate goal of United Nations 2030 agenda. And to achieve that, we have a lot of challenges ahead. The problem with RE implementation, it is growing in a faster rate. We are getting a lot of new technologies. And every year, we are getting new innovation. That's why, investors are slightly, not ready to invest in a huge fund for developing a proper infrastructure for RE. But however, we are one side we are working on the technologies to improve energy efficiency. Other side, we have a problem from the government. We don't have proper guidelines and policies. At the one side, they are telling a lot of subsidies are available if you go for rooftop solar plant, but it varies with respect to different states. When we approach government, they are giving a lot of procedures to claim the subsidy. So a lot of practical difficulties right now we are facing to migrate to the renewable sector, but there is no other option. In order to achieve that 2030 goals, we have to move on to the renewable energy. So the students present over here, my appeal to all the people, you will be having a lot of opportunities. You will be having a lot of opportunities in the field of renewable energy sector, especially solar energy and wind energy. And EV vehicle also. Right now in automobile sector, for electrical people, we have 5 to 10% of the jobs are available. Once we replace conventional vehicle by e-vehicle, then job opportunity will increase from 10% to 30%. So, but for that you have to wait for 2 more years. And if you update your knowledge, then you can grab very good opportunity in 2022 and 23 onwards. And yes, of course, the main problem we are facing, slowdown in RE implementation. I would like to give you small data with respect to total RE capacity. This is as of December 31 database. And right now we have 86 gigawatt of capacity put together, both solar, wind, and other renewable sources. And we have 34 out of 86, 34 kilowatt is from solar energy alone. It is now 39%, and 37 kilowatt is from wind farms, that is about 44%, and rest is from other renewable energy sources. But in 2019 alone, this is the total RE installed capacity as on end of 2019. But in 2019 alone, we have installed 7.5 gigawatt of utility scale solar capacity and 1 gigawatt of rooftop solar capacity. And many states have contributed, especially south state and west states are contributing in the renewable energy sector. But other side of India is still, they are lagging behind in the implementation of RE. So government has taken a lot of initiative to promote RE installation in various states. And if you look at only 2019, it is a very bad year with respect to RE implementation, because we have achieved only 8.4 gigawatt in 2019. So our ultimate aim is to reach 175 gigawatt, 175 gigawatt in 2022. But based on the current trend, we could able to achieve only 104 gigawatt capacity by the end of 2022. But government is still hoping that we could able to achieve the target of 175 gigawatt by the end of 2022. For that, they have taken a lot of initiative. They have invited private players also to implement RE plans in various states. But even then, based on the current growth, achieving 175 gigawatt by the end of 2022 will be a biggest challenge. Let us see, let us wait and see. In order to achieve, based on the current trend, we can easily achieve 104 gigawatt. But in order to achieve the remaining target, government has to spend at least 300 billions to install the remaining capacity. And a lot of challenges we are facing, because the biggest challenge right now we are facing, we could not able to purchase all the power generated from wind and solar, because your wind and solar is not a reliable one. We cannot predict how much power we can able to generate from solar or wind by tomorrow or by next week. That's why always they have given a minimum target to this sector, and we have to find out suitable technology. We are very much lagging with forecasting of radiation and forecasting of wind velocity. So if we have proper technology to forecast proper radiation for next 1 week or next 1 month, similarly for forecasting proper forecasting for wind velocity, we could able to predict how much power we can able to generate using solar and wind plants, so that we can have a better idea to control over our grid. So grid balancing, grid integration will be a biggest challenge when we go for RE. So one side we are thinking about replacing all the thermal power plant by RE sector. Other side we have a lot of technical glitches, and a lot of research is happening in that field. Soon we will get better solution for grid integration, so that we can able to extract maximum power from both solar and wind. Yes, our ultimate goal is to provide clean energy to all the people, and that is one of the agenda of your today's agenda. And for that, government has taken a lot of initiative, and main initiative to increase the clean energy, and they have invited many private players to invest more on the renewable energy sources, and hundreds of small and medium enterprises have reduced their energy consumption by adopting the energy efficiency technologies. And the government also instructed private industries and commercial buildings to go for renewable energy generation. So it was already given as GO. So 5% to 10% only everybody has to go for renewable energy. And in future, we may also get suitable guideline to go for rooftop solar plant. So, but still we are lagging behind in implementing rooftop, because the problem with the implementation of rooftop, the people are expecting grid net metering system. Still, we are lagging with the net metering. I think in near future we will get a proper net metering support from the government, so that every common people will go for rooftop supply. This will add value addition to achieve our target by 2022, as well as to achieve our 2030 United Nations agenda. Yeah, I already have discussed this point. We'll straight away move on to the next important avenue, energy avenue. It's a blue economy. And during this lockdown period, many people have lost their job, and India now faces the biggest challenge by providing opportunities to the youngsters, those who are passed out from various colleges. But no, our focus is towards only MNC company and small scale industries, and a lot of other avenues are available. Especially if you take a ocean sector, we are getting a lot of opportunity. So far, we have concentrated on onshore energy sources. Now, a lot of investments we are bringing in case of offshore energy resources. So a lot of opportunities available with respect to offshore energy and tidal energy. And we have very good infrastructure with respect to blue economy. So if you take our total coastline, we have 1,500 kilometer long coastal line and 4 union territories and 2 islands. With that, we have 95% of the total business, total ocean business depends on energy sources and transportation sector. So even in ocean sector side, we need energy people, and we need transportation people. So we can grow in parallel with RE and vehicle sector. With that, we'll move on to the small introduction about the electric vehicle. Now, this is one of the important topic hardly discussed in all over the world. People are slowly moving from conventional vehicle to electric vehicle, and you might be knowing that our capital is vastly affected by air pollution. So, Chief Minister has given a lot of subsidies to promote EV vehicle. I think other state government also will give a lot of subsidies in near future to promote electric vehicle. And people are thinking that electric vehicle is the new technology, but I tell you, this is not the new one. It is available in 19th century itself. But now we are giving more focus on electric vehicle because of the air pollution. And if you look at the actual EV vehicle, it is available from 19th century, and due to the development of internal combustion engine and the low fuel cost, because those days in 19th century, the fuel cost, petrol, diesel fuel cost is very low. That's why, EV vehicles could not able to survive. But later on, in 1996, again, General Motor has launched EV vehicle, and followed by Ford, Honda, other people also launched EV vehicle, but it is not very much popular among the common people. But nowadays, people are moving on to electric vehicle. But even then, we have a lot of challenges available in electric vehicle, especially in India. We have a lot of infrastructure challenges. We'll discuss one by one. And if you compare, industry, internal combustion engine, that is our fossil vehicle, with electric vehicle. In internal combustion engine, the power and the torque is not uniform. And in case of electric vehicle, you can able to control the speed of your electric vehicle by controlling the frequency. So you will be having better control over electric vehicle. And IC engines are not self-starting, so you need a lot of accessories. So if you open the front panel of internal combustion engine, you could see how many spare parts are available in that area. But if you open the EV vehicle, we have minimum number of spare parts. So that is the another advantage, and it is a self-starting one. And the biggest problem with EV vehicle, in conventional vehicle, within 5 minutes you can fill the tank. But in case of EV vehicle, even with fast charging, you have to wait at least 40 minutes to reach 80% of the charge. And another important challenge is battery. The vehicle cost on the decided by battery capacity. So if you want to take your vehicle for longer duration, longer distance, then you need to have a higher capacity batteries. That will increase the total cost of the vehicle. So a lot of challenges are available, and we have multiple options right now available: pure battery operated, hybrid electric, where you have your battery plus internal combustion, and then the third one is the plug-in hybrid electric, and the final one, still a lot of research is going on with fuel cell electric vehicle. In case of battery operated, the main power source is the battery, and the vehicle cost will be decided by battery. So, but it is more suitable for urban or within city. You can use this battery vehicle. And the next one is the hybrid electric vehicle. So here in hybrid electric vehicle, you have combustion engine plus battery. So for low power requirement, your vehicle will be operated by battery. For high power requirement, then it will be switched on to internal combustion engine. Whereas in plug-in, structure wise, there is no difference between hybrid and plug-in. But in case of plug-in, the main power drain will be from electric, and IC will be the backup. This will boost the battery when you take the vehicle for long travel. Then the final one will be the fuel cell electric vehicle. But a lot of infrastructure challenges there with respect to fuel cell, because we have to find out hydrogen and charging requirement for fuel cell. So a lot of problems we are facing with respect to battery technology. But if you take the batteries available, so in those days, early days, we have used lead acid batteries. And after that, the lead acid batteries were replaced by nickel metal hydride batteries. But in nickel hydride batteries, the discharge, we have a discharge issue, 12.5%. The discharge limit is 12.5% per day. If you kept the vehicle for 1 week, the total battery will be discharged, total battery will be drained. So that is the biggest problem with the nickel hydride batteries. So nowadays, we are preferring lithium ion batteries, so it is a more advantageous. Still a lot of research is going on to improve the efficiency, and discharge capacity of the lithium ion batteries is 5% per month. It is far better than other battery technologies, but still we have some challenges. Recently, Tesla Model S faced burning issue, battery burning issue. So they are finding it alternate solution to avoid this burning when you take the vehicle for longer drives. The coolant issue is there. I think soon that problem will be replaced. A lot of researchers are working on battery technologies. So you could find a lot of avenues and a lot of opportunities in battery sector. And some of the vehicles, e-vehicles currently available in the market. This is Mahindra's model, and in almost all the vehicles, they are cost around 10 lakhs, approximately 10 lakhs. And for single charge, you can take the vehicle up to 85 kilometers. Then after 85 kilometers, then you have to charge the battery. For that, you have to wait for 40 minutes. That is the biggest challenge we are facing. That's why I said, right now, EV vehicle more suitable for urban. That is within the city, you can use it. Now, it is not advisable to take it outside because of lack of infrastructure. And this is the Mahindra's model E Verito. This can run up to 110 kilometer. The maximum speed limit is 86 kilometer. And this is the Nissan. Nissan is one of the successful e-vehicle model. They have launched various e-vehicle in other countries, but in India, they are expecting the infrastructure support from the government. See, one side government is insisting automobile industry to go for manufacturing of the EV vehicle, but in turn, manufacturing sector, they are requesting government, if you provide infrastructure facility, especially charging station, we will go for mass production. So this kind of debate is going on between government and automobile sector. I think soon we'll get a proper infrastructure with respect to charging stations, so that without any hassle we can go for EV vehicle. This is Tata model and Mahindra. A lot of models are available. You can very well refer Google. And the biggest challenge right now we are facing to migrate from conventional vehicle to e-vehicle. The first problem, as I said earlier, the infrastructure. See, when you take your fossil fuel vehicle, you can fill that tank within 5 minutes. Even if you look at the mentality of the human being, if you find 5 people in the queue, we will move on to the next station and next petrol bunk for filling the fuel. But in case of EV vehicle, you have to wait for at least 40 to 50 minutes to charge the battery. That is the biggest problem we are facing. The second one, infrastructure and charging time. We are lagging with the infrastructure. We don't have proper infrastructure for charging, and we are lagging with technology because it takes more time to get the full charge. The other one is the price of the vehicle. As I said earlier, if you want to take the vehicle for long distance, then you have to increase the capacity of the battery. One side, either you have to go for increasing the capacity of the battery, otherwise you have to have very efficient charging technology. But for that, it will take time to find out suitable technology to minimize the time period. So people are not ready to invest more money on EV vehicle because we do not know the growth of the e-mobility. Other side, companies are planning to promote battery swapping technology. So instead of giving battery for the owner, they are planning to give the battery for rent. But for that also we need a lot of infrastructure support, so that we can have proper swapping. But a lot of practical difficulty is there with respect to battery swapping. But these are the proposed options right now available in order to avoid the charging time and reduce the price of the EV vehicle cost. The other one, as I said earlier, recent burning battery issue with Tesla model. So companies are taking a lot of measures to provide proper secure technology to the consumer. Hope we'll get suitable technology and we will overcome these practical problems near future. And this is our sustainable goals. And so far we have discussed only about clean energy, that is listed in 7th point, SDG 7. So as I said earlier, in 2015 we had an international conference on climate action and sustainable development. So these are the important goals 196 countries has agreed to move towards and achieve a better future for the future people. So in that, you look at, we have, two important importance. One is the SDG 7, that is affordable and clean energy. So a lot of investment will be there with respect to clean energy. Therefore, if you are ready to equip yourself, you are ready to update your knowledge in renewable energy and EV vehicle, you can expect very good opportunity in these two areas. And if you look at SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities. So this side, one side people are thinking about smart city, green building. So that side also we have a lot of opportunity. So our ultimate aim, and the forum like this will create awareness among the youngsters about the importance of clean energy, so that we can easily achieve together, we can easily achieve our India's target of 2030 40% of the total installed capacity by renewable energy, and parallelly we have to minimize the carbon emission by 40%, 30 to 35% when compared to 2005. So in order to achieve this, and all core engineers, engineers like electrical engineers and electronics engineers, they have to join together and working on renewable energy projects and e-vehicle sector, so that we can provide very good environment, sustainable environment to our near futures. With that, I will stop my presentation. This is my contact number, and this is my webpage. If you want to contact me, you can reach me through my webpage. And once again, I sincerely convey my sincere thanks to the organizer for inviting me today to give small information regarding the sustainable development with respect to clean energy for the young engineers available in this forum. Thank you so much. Over to the
Thank you, sir, for sharing with us a valuable information on sustainable pathway for global energy transition, and having spared your time in spite of a busy schedule, sir. Thank you once again. Now moving on to the presentation. It is always a great feeling to see our alumni succeeding in their professional lives, and we are proud to have few of them as our panel members. Now I request Ms. Vanati and Mr. Shivasubramanian to introduce our panel members. I will hand over it to Vanati, ma'am.
Thank you, Gayatri ma'am. I would like to introduce our panel members for today's conference. We have 4 panel members with us today. Each of our panel members are experts in the respective domain. First, I would like to introduce our panel member, Dr. V. Jamuna. Dr. V. Jamuna is a professor and head in E&IE Department, Jerusalem College of Engineering, Chennai. She received her BE degree in Electrical and Electronics Engineering from St. Peter's Engineering College in the year 1999. She completed her PG, securing 5th place in university in the domain Power Electronics and Drives from Jerusalem Engineering College in the year 2005. Also, she completed her PhD from Anna University in the year 2010. She has been in the teaching field for about 21 years, with which 15 years of research experience in the field of drives, power converters, multi-level inverters, and green energy systems. Under her guidance, 7 scholars have successfully completed the doctoral program. She has published over 150 technical papers in national and international conference proceedings and journals. She is a life member of ISTE, Institute of Engineers, Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers, and International Association of Engineers. She received many grants and funds for organizing many FDPs and research projects. She also received funds from PNSCST for the project title, A Voice Control Wheelchair Using Arduino in the year 2019. Also, she got funds from Institution of Engineers for organizing one-day seminar. She is the recipient of Best Teacher Award during the year 2013. And also, she is the recipient for Best Achiever Award during the year 2017. Welcome, ma'am. Next, I would like to introduce our panel member, Dr. Bhargav Swaminathan. So he is an alumnus of Meenakshi Sundararajan Engineering College. He is currently an R&D engineer at EDF, which is the largest electricity company in France and Europe. He holds PhD in convex optimization methods for power system operation under uncertainty. His current work contributes towards advanced research methods, publications, patents, and industrial tools for next generation smart grids, and so on. Welcome, sir. Over to you, Gayatri.
Now I request Shiva sir to speak about the other two panel members.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Gayatri ma'am. Thank you, Vanati ma'am. It's always been a pleasure to talk to alumni, discuss about alumni. Thanks for this opportunity once again. I'm here to introduce to all of you, my dear friends, about Pranav Murthy Balasubramaniam and Navneet Narayan. Pranav Murthy finished his undergraduation in MSCC in the year 2009. Then he went on to do his PG program in MIT, Crumpet. By 2011, he was ready for his PhD program in Arizona State University, the United States. There he was working for 5 years for his research, and during that tenure, he was also being a teaching associate for 2 years there. He has done teaching practice in the subjects of digital design fundamentals and power electronics in Arizona State University, and his research in circles around economic dispatch problem. And from then on, he went on to become a reliability engineer in the city of Minnesota for 2.5 years. And now he is in Eaton, Pune, as technology manager, working in grid intelligence. During his days, he was a strong advocate of changing the education system so that the level of education and the standard of education in the country becomes supreme compared to any other country in the world. And moving on to our next presenter, Navneet Narayan, next chief guest, panel member, Navneet Narayan. Navneet Narayan finished his undergraduation from MSCC in the year 2008. Then he went on to do his master's in Houston. From then on, he worked in various capacities in major power utilities in the United States of America. To start with, he has done his part in Powell Industries as systems engineer and control systems engineer. Now he is working in CPS Energy, which is the 7th largest power utility in the United States of America. Fine. I'm happy to introduce two of our distinguished alumni as panel members for the international conference. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Quickly, we shall move on to the technical session now. Before that, I request our panel members to have the evaluation forms with you so that it would be easier for you to start evaluating as and when the presentations are going on. And now I call upon Mr. Balakrishnan to present his work on analysis of controllers and data acquisition systems for tracking a point observer system. He is from Uppsala University, Sweden. Over to you, Mr. Balakrishnan.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, one and all. I'll just share my presentation. Tell me if it's visible. Please feel free to stop me in the middle if I'm not audible or something. Is it visible?
Yeah, it is visible actually.
Okay, thank you so much. So my project is about analysis of controllers and data acquisition systems for wave buoys. So as we all know, wave energy is one of the most important renewable energy sources. But I personally feel there is the commercialization of wave buoy system is not to the extent of solar or wind, and this is mainly because of the lack of data available for a possible wave climate in a region or something. So the data regarding the wave climate or a wave measurement is very important for us to set up a power system or a power generating farm on a wave climate. So for this, we have to study about the particular location before we set it up, and this is the basis of my project. So before going into the project, I'll first tell about the location of this project. This project is going to be located in a site called Lysekil, and this is in the west coast of Sweden. As you can see from the map, this point is